Oh hey there, Tom here from the Run Testers. In this video we are going to be reviewing the Asics Gel Nimbus 28. Let's have a look and see what we all thought. The Asics Gel Nimbus 28 costs £180. We don't have a US price yet. It weighs 272 grams or 9.6 ounces for men in a size 8 and the drop is 8mm. The Asics Gel Nimbus 28 is designed to offer a smooth and comfortable running experience. Although much has remained the same in the latest version of the shoe, there are some updates that aim to improve the overall ride and minimise the weight. The first of those is a new engineered knit upper to provide breathability as well as a supportive fit across the length of the shoe. There's also a redesigned hybrid ASICSGRIP outsole to deliver reliable traction across different conditions while maintaining a soft, flexible feel. Returning features include a knit tongue with a loop that helps make the shoe easy to slip on, creating a secure and hassle-free fit. There's the brand's pure gel technology to enhance shock absorption, promoting softer and more stable landings, and an FF Blast Plus midsole for a balanced ride with plenty of cushioning.
So when it comes to fit, I ran in a UK 8.5, US 9.5, which is my regular size in Asics shoes. I would describe the fit as spacious in the forefoot. I get plenty of wiggle room. I get ample clearance for length and across the top of the toe box. Everything feels nicely accommodating. The kind of room really that you'll want in a shoe that's built for easy, longer time on feet. Now, as usual with the Nimbus, you've got big plush padded heel collars here that will work well for heel hold and heel security. It's all a very familiar setup to the previous Nimbus in the 27s, which it's almost identical in terms of this heel package. It's a case of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. The knitted tongues are still gusseted, but they're a little bit thinner than your tongues you got on the 27. I think they come up sort of not quite as high on the foot here, which I kind of prefer. It's a minor thing, but it's just a little bit more comfortable. They still wrap well, and I had no trouble getting the midfoot nice and secure. So overall, I was really happy sticking with my regular size in the new Nimbus 28.
So fit has been very good for me in the Nimbus 28. No issues to report in my time. I've got it in a UK size A. That is my usual running shoe size. That is the same shoe size that I had the Nimbus 27 in, and previous Nimbus shoes that I've tested. I would stick to going true to size. I think most people will be happy going true to size, particularly if you are used to the Nimbus kind of range already. I think particularly the last few versions, and I think you'll get on going true to size in this shoe. There are a couple of changes here from the Nimbus 27. I would say not had a major kind of impact in terms of my experience. We were seeing a change in the upper material, which maybe there's a little bit more structure compared to the Nimbus 27's upper. Maybe it's a little bit softer feeling, but I can't say really kind of notice a massive difference there. There is a difference in terms of the heel collar design. Now there's a similar level of padding, I would say. We've lost that kind of frilly, I would say, edge that you had on the Nimbus 27, which I don't think really served, a great purpose. So, it's good to see that's gone. That's probably helped to reduce the weight here. The laces are similar. The tongue, you've still got this stretchy tongue, but what I like about this tongue now is that it does stretch even more. So it makes it a lot easier to get this shoe on. So it's a nice little thing. It's not a hugely impactful thing in terms of the running experience, but in terms of getting the shoe on, that definitely has changed. So yeah, I would say, I've had a good experience fit-wise on the Nimbus 28. I would go true to size based on my testing.
So the fit for me in the Asics Gel Nimbus 28, I'm a size 8 in the UK. This is a size 8, which is my normal running shoe size. It's a very roomy shoe, actually. There's quite a lot of space before my big toe. And the width of the shoe, I've got fairly average width feet. It feels like it's quite a comfortable fitting upper in this shoe. So there's definitely a little bit of space across the forefoot and the midfoot for me in comparison to a lot of shoes that I test. So if you've got average width feet, you'll be absolutely fine with this shoe. The padding on it is really nice, very comfortable. It's this new upper is very easy to get a nice comfortable lockdown fit in, but it does feel quite relaxed and comfortable. It doesn't feel like a performance shoe or something like that. But because of that extra space in the forefoot, I might say go down half a size. I was fine with it, but it's definitely a lot more room in before my big toe than I normally experience in a shoe in a UK size 8.
So into that running time. Now, my experience with the Nimbus 27 was fine. I think it was a good shoe, a shoe fit for purpose in terms of being a very comfortable shoe, a very good shoe to kind of tick away some running mileage in. But I think the biggest thing I would say is that I would probably look to go for the older versions of the Nimbus, the 25 or the 26. Right? You know, I don't think there was a huge difference between the experience of those shoes compared to the 27. Now, the 28, on paper, doesn't seem all that different. Same drop, same stack height, same midsole technologies. But there are some differences that I do think influence the experience of running in this shoe in a positive way. I think the first thing is that it is a lighter shoe. And I think that's definitely a positive thing. I did feel like it was a little bit heavy to run in the Nimbus 27. And the fact it shaved some weight and it's clear where it's going to shave that weight from as well, it's definitely a good thing. I think the other thing here is that you're seeing a change in the outsole, which I think contributes to the ride that you're now getting. I think what it does is, again, it reduces some of the weight. There's definitely less rubber here. There's more exposed areas of that outsole now. But I think what that does is allow the midsole to breathe a little bit more and work a bit better. And I think you're still getting quite a kind of smooth and, you know, stable ride here, but I do think it's a lot more balanced than the Nimbus 27. And I think, you know, you still get a good level of bounce there, but you've got kind of a gentle rocker there. And I think, again, it is a good shoe to kind of tick through your running time in, but I do think that it feels nicer to do that. Definitely feels, as I say, a little bit more balanced than it did on the 27. I think what that allows the Nimbus 28 to be better at is slightly picking the pace up in this shoe. Now, I wouldn't say you're going to do tempo runs in this shoe, but I think from going from easy, you know, recovery easy up to moderate paces, I think absolutely the Nimbus 28 has the capability to do that. Now, I did one run, kind of early run, where, you know, it was just a little bit underwhelming. I didn't get a huge amount out of it. It definitely improved in my experience the more running time I put into this shoe. I actually did one run where I started off with the Nimbus 28 and I switched over to the Nimbus 27. And the biggest differences I could see was that definitely that ride does feel more balanced than it does on the 27. And it's amazing to think that, you know, there isn't huge changes here, but, you know, but actually in practice, it definitely feels different in terms of my experience. And it talks about that outsole, and yes, there is, I would say, less outsole coverage here, but the grip has been good. I have run in some rainy conditions, and I felt that the performance of the outsole has been pretty good overall. It's a good amount of rubber there. It mainly focuses on, you know, that heel area, a little bit more the forefoot. That midfoot area is definitely a lot more exposed than it is on the Nimbus 27 there. But I think in general, I think the positives outweigh the negatives here in terms of the experience of what you're getting from that outsole in terms of grip and traction, and maybe losing a little bit of that rubber. So yeah, definitely a good experience once I put a bit more time in the Nimbus 28. I still think it has all the qualities of the Nimbus line, but I just think there's some things here, small things I think make for a nicer experience, and definitely I think makes the Nimbus work at slightly kind of more quicker paces, which I think is definitely a good thing here.
Okay, so the Asics Gel Nimbus line is one that I've not really been a massive fan of in the past. I don't think I've really talked about it that much, apart from when we're doing specific videos on it. The Asics Gel Nimbus 27 for me, it was an okay max cushioned running shoe. It didn't really work for me that well. What I found of it is that it didn't really have a really nice smooth transition for me. The midsole's nice and balanced, but it just didn't roll me through very comfortable. If you're going out for a nice easy run or recovery run, it was absolutely fine. But I really wouldn't use it for anything like a longer session or anything like that, just because even though it was comfortable and it's got this nice balanced FF Blast Plus midsole in it, it just didn't really offer me anything, especially for the price. So the Gel Nimbus 28, it's more of the same. So there's not really any major updates to this shoe in performance ways, but there's this new upper that's on here, which I think it's fine. It's I didn't really notice a massive difference in the way it fit to me. I didn't have any problems with the 27, but it's meant to be a bit more breathable, and the overall shoe is a bit lighter now. Not massively lighter, but noticeably. It does feel lighter on the feet when you're out running in it, and it sort of sits where the Novablast is and where the Gel Nimbus 27 are, it sits in the middle of those. So it's getting a bit lighter and a bit more noticeably lighter out on the run. And part of that is probably due to this new upper. So that's a bonus because it's made it a bit lighter. And it's also got an update to the outsole as well. So the outsole on this is pretty good, really thick layer of this hybrid ASICSGRIP outsole rubber. So definitely there's got a bit of rubber to go through there before you get down to the midsole foam, so not bad at all in comparison to the 27. It's a very different makeup. So this is also a hybrid ASICSGRIP on, but there's a different sort of formatting of the outsole rubber on it. Never really had any issues with the outsole on the 27, but the 28 does have this new version on it, which is about the same really. I've not really noticed any major improvements from the outsole. It's probably adding a little bit to the loss of weight, which is a plus point. So the midsole, it's still FF Last Plus, but what I would say about it is, and I'm not sure if it is the midsole or the fact that it's a bit lighter, but it does feel a little bit better for me, this shoe, than the Asics Gel Nimbus 27. On the run, it just feels like it's a bit easier to pick up the pace in this. Not massively, it's still not a shoe that I'd say is massively versatile, but it definitely felt to me on the run like it was just giving me a little bit more back, and it rolled through a little bit nicer. So that's possibly due to the slight weight reduction in it. But for me, it feels like that midsole might have been slightly tweaked as well, because when I press this one, it feels a lot softer than when I press the 27. Might be because that's a bit older as well, but yeah, for me, pretty solid all-round shoe, comfortable for easy runs, pretty good for recovery runs, things like that. But now I think the lighter design of it has made it a bit better if you want to do a little bit more versatile training. I definitely not say it's the most versatile shoe out there, but it's definitely an improvement on the previous version of the shoe.
Now in testing, I have done about 25 miles in the Nimbus 28, mostly at the pace that this shoe is intended for. That is a slow, easy recovery kind of stuff, base building runs. I did one 10k with a bit of progression thrown in as well, up to around marathon pace, just to test the upper pace credentials, see what happens when you start moving a bit faster. All of that has been on the road, some in wet conditions here in wintry London as well, to test the grip. And now this is maybe the 4th or 5th generation of the Nimbus that I've tested. And from the moment you get these out of the box, it's all unmistakably Nimbus. I think you'd be hard pushed to tell these shoes apart from the Nimbus 27 if you kind of put them at a little bit of a distance. And very much the way they feel on the foot also remains very familiar. This is pretty textbook Nimbus stuff here. You've got big plush cushion and slightly on the heavier side for a daily trainer. I'd say this is still a saloon car built for low and slow cruising in protective comfort. And it's good at what it does for that. Heel strikers are going to get good protection from the gel inserts. The soft forefoot here soaks up the road with some mild return that I think really now avoids getting sort of bogged down and lifeless. I felt like there was a bit more to the return here than I think we got with the previous Nimbus shoes. It's not bouncy, but it's also not dull. It's not too dead now. I have to admit though, I'm not really a Nimbus runner. This would never be my first pick out of a pile of shoes. You know, I'd definitely be picking up things like the Vomero 18, even though it's a bit heavier. I find it a bit more sort of agile. Novablast 5 for sure. It's got a bit more about it. But I did enjoy my miles in this Nimbus more than I'd done so in the previous generations. It's not that much lighter, but it just had a shade more sprightliness, I think, without sacrificing, you know, that pillowy cushion, that softness and sort of balance and control that you're known for with the Nimbus. I kind of salute Asics here for letting the Nimbus stick to its guns. And I think if you like previous Nimbus shoes, then these are not going to disappoint. It's kind of more of the same. Some other notes as well. The grip in the wet was solid, and I think the Nimbus 28 feels built to last. You know, it's a pricey shoe in terms of the sort of daily trainer bracket, but it should have a long mileage lifespan. Even if that foam bottoms out a bit here, I still think it's going to be more cushioned than you're going to get from many of the other shoes that maybe are stacking a little bit less, a little bit firmer already.
So my verdict on the Asics Gel Nimbus 28, I think it is more of the same. If you've used the 27, you're not going to be massively surprised by this. I think what you will notice is it's slightly lighter, which is a big improvement for me, because I did the previous version of the shoe, I just didn't really use that much. It just felt like a big max cushion shoe that really didn't have a nice heel to toe transition. This feels like there's a bit more to it, and I've enjoyed running in this shoe more than I did in the Gel Nimbus 27. Other than that, I wouldn't say there's any major differences in this shoe. I think it's just a bit of an improvement, and especially for people who normally run in the 27, I think you'll notice that. If you don't use this shoe, I think there are other alternatives out there which are probably better if you're looking for a max stacked cushion shoe. Things like the New Balance More V6, which I much prefer. Some people don't, but I like that because it's just a bit softer and it just has a nicer heel to toe transition for me. I also think the Gel Nimbus 28 and 27 sort of sitting in this realm of cushion shoe, trying to be more of a daily shoe. And I think if that's the case, you probably want to go for something like the maybe the New Balance 1080 V15, which I think is a really good shoe. Actually, the new version has a really nice new midsole in it, so that's a nice option if you want a more versatile cushioned daily trainer over something that's probably just skews more towards those easier sessions. The other thing I'd say about the shoe is that for the price, I think this shoe is, I said this about the previous version of the shoe, it's a very expensive shoe for what is essentially a comfortable, easy run, recovery run shoe, or maybe if you were a beginner runner or new to running or more of a general runner, it might be a shoe that you use for most of your runs. But for £180, which I believe is the cost of this, we haven't got the confirmed one because it's not out until today, is pretty high for a shoe like this. I think there are other options out there which you'd probably look at which are a little bit cheaper and probably do the same job.
Verdict then, and the Nimbus 28 is unmistakably Nimbus, and if you're after a plush, soft, cushioned comfort ride and don't mind a bit of a weightier shoe to get those things, then I think you'll like this shoe. For runs where comfort is more important than speed, the Nimbus excels. It's stable, it's protective, it's soft but smooth. This current iteration, I think, is the Nimbus that I've enjoyed the most. That might be that I'm sort of slowly being drawn into the ultra plush, kind of heavier cushion shoe world, or I'm just more accustomed now to running in bigger stack shoes than I did sort of 4 or 5 years ago. But I'd really like to put it down to the fact that I felt a bit more energy coming back with that kind of cushion. Not a lot, but enough to make this shoe just a bit more interesting to run in while still being kind of protective and overall comfortable for those easy runs. However, for me, the Nimbus is a shoe that remains limited. It's not that versatile. I'd only tend to use it on my slowest runs. And even though I thought there was a bit more life in the midsole, yeah, it would definitely be for that kind of recovery style miles or really long kind of easy base building. Other cushion shoes I would look at alongside this, maybe the Brooks Ghost Max 3 offers a ride profile that's not a million miles from the Nimbus, but it comes in much cheaper. If you like your easy run shoes to offer more versatility, then the Nova Blast 5 is probably worth a look as well from the Asics lineup. It's not as deeply cushy as the Nimbus, but you do still get protection, but it's light enough to move up through the gears. I also think the New Balance 1080 V15 is a really interesting upgrade to that shoe that now delivers cushion but with more energy than the previous 1080s, which gives it a bit more versatility. So those are a few different options.
So verdict then, and the Nimbus 28 is very much still a Nimbus. This would still be a shoe that I would say is a beginner friendly shoe. I think a good long run shoe, and definitely one if you're looking for a very stable, comfortable, well cushioned kind of experience. Now, what it does show me is that by making minor tweaks to largely the same formula as the 27, we have managed to get, I would say, a nicer version of the Nimbus. I think that comes down to the reduction in weight, which I think is noticeable here. I think also kind of redesigning that outsole here, I think helps to allow that midsole to really deliver something that I think is a little bit more balanced in terms of that ride, and potentially will be a little bit more versatile for some runners as well. Now, if we look at the price, £180 in the UK, particularly in the UK, it is very expensive. I think about where you could spend that money elsewhere and other shoes I think I would compare it to. The obvious ones would be things like the Hoka Bondi, which I do think this is a nicer shoe in comparison. You've got things like the Saucony Hurricane, which I think with that shoe, I think that's definitely a easy recovery long run shoe. I think the Nimbus can potentially, as I say, be a shoe more comfortable at kind of moderate paces for some runners as well. I think the other shoe I'd probably mention here as well is the Brooks Glycerin Max, and I haven't used the Glycerin Max 2, but again, it's a similar price point as the Nimbus. I think is a more agile feeling shoe for a kind of big cushion shoe. That's probably the shoe that personally I would look for if I was looking at a shoe in this category. Maybe the Nimbus is probably the most beginner friendly, as I mentioned, compared to something like the Glycerin Max, but I think in terms of what I think you're getting a nicer, more memorable experience, I think the Glycerin Max is where I put, at the top of that kind of list. The Nimbus 28 wouldn't be far below that. So yeah, absolutely, I think this is a good version of the Nimbus. I think unlike the 27 compared to the 26, maybe the 25, there wasn't those huge differences. And while on paper it looks like it's not going to be a hugely different shoe, I do think, as I said, those little tweaks that Asics has made here does make for a nicer Nimbus, and I think a shoe that a lot of Nimbus fans are going to like for their easy runs, longer runs, and potentially for some more moderately paced runs as well.
Okay, that's it from us on the Asics Gel Nimbus 28. Thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click that little bell. If you're going to catch him below, you can find to our podcast, which comes out a couple of times each month. Thanks a lot for watching. Catch you next time.